Anti-ICE activists reach a new low. I mean, this is beyond. They've decided now, because there's been absolutely no crackdown by local police, that they can get away with storming churches and disrupting Sunday worship. It happened yesterday, and the city's Democratic leaders, as of noon Eastern today, nearly 24 hours later, have said nothing. Mr. Get the fuck out of Minneapolis tough guy, Mayor Fry, so quick to tell ICE to get out. Nothing. Nothing. He said not a word, which clearly means he's fine with it. So is Governor Walz. They're fine seeing Christians, including children, harassed literally in the pews at Sunday Mass by these cretins who call themselves activists, who mean to harass any law-abiding Minnesotan, especially those in worship, because all these people worship is the God of wokeness, the God of leftism. That's their God. I mean, that's part of the problem here. We've talked about how uniformly they're unattractive. They tend to be fat, unkempt. You can tell they smell bad. And the other piece of it is they're godless. So they think nothing of going into a mass and disrupting people's private time with Jesus. That's fine by them. They don't care what the people are going through. And because they never go to church, you see, they don't realize that when you go to mass, you can become emotional. It brings up a lot for a lot of people. It's often the closest you feel to God and Jesus in your entire week. Some people are there praying over lost loved ones. Some people are tearful. Some people are really struggling in their personal lives. And this is the closest they can feel towards salvation, towards something larger than themselves. But these leftists don't understand that language, you see. They don't understand those sentiments. So they're fine harassing these people, whether they're hurting or not, including children who look scared in the pews. Aided and abetted, of course, by Don Lemon. Don Lemon, who reveled in it and lectured half of the parishioners about how they really had an obligation to sit there and fucking take it. That this was American as apple pie. Sit there and fucking take it. That was Don Lemon's basic message to these parishioners. He's a disgusting fool. Now, there's a question about whether he's also a criminal. That's kind of irrelevant to me. I mean, if he broke the law, I'm fine seeing him prosecuted. But I actually think what's more important is how disgusting he is. He's wearing a cap that reads like lemon head or whatever, his little lemon, like self-promotional, and satanic. That's how that felt. Self-promotional and satanic. Can you imagine? Think about it. Just think about it. I know most of you guys are not reporters, but you are individuals in America who live your lives, and probably a large portion of you go to church or services. Can you imagine walking into somebody else's worship and disrupting it? And then you, as a so-called journalist, starting to lecture them about how they needed to take it, about how it was important and it was quintessentially American and totally allowed under the First Amendment. This guy's fall from what was once the pinnacle of cable news, I'm not saying much, has been so precipitous and stunning. I mean, not to some of us who saw what a disgusting person he was a long time ago, but wow, this is like, okay. No one should ever look at this guy again. Okay, nobody should ever be watching his disgusting feed. His disgusting behavior dovetails perfectly with who he is as a so-called journalist and as a man. It happened at the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. Protesters say they took aim at that church because one of the church's pastors is allegedly involved in ICE operations. We actually don't know whether that's true or not. We were unable to confirm that. But they could have gone to that church and requested a meeting with that pastor to talk about their differences. Not that they had any right to do that. They had absolutely no fucking right to talk to anybody. They didn't. But they didn't even try. They did not even attempt to have a discussion with him outside of Sunday service because the whole point was to upset Christians. I'm sorry, I'm getting sick of this shit. Okay? I'm sick of this. Like, it was 3 weeks ago, we had Mark Levin calling Jack Posobiec a crackpot with his picture holding the rosary. Now we've got open season on Christians while they're in celebrating Jesus at their Sunday worship. What the F? Something's happening here, and it's satanic. They decided to interrupt Sunday worship to deliver their message of, quote, justice for Renee Good. And for good measure, this is just perfect. For good measure, chants of hands up, don't shoot, which is based on a lie about the 2014 police-involved shooting of Michael Brown. Here's what's so crazy. Sonny Hostin of The View, amongst other idiot leftists, I actually think Margaret Hoover was involved in it too, who's not a leftist but behaved like a moron in this clip, did the hands up, don't shoot on the set of CNN in the wake of the shooting of Michael Brown. Michael Brown is the reason Michael Brown got shot by the officer in Ferguson, Missouri. Michael Brown attacked the officer, as several witnesses, including 5 black witnesses, ultimately told Eric Holder's DOJ. That's why he was shot by the officer, as he then once again lurched forward toward the officer. That's what happened. Leftist liars got a lie started that he died saying, with his hands up, saying, don't shoot. It was not true. It's been completely debunked. It's been acknowledged as a lie by multiple leftists who write in papers like the New York Times and the Washington Post. And yet these idiots in St. Paul, Minnesota, refuse to take the truth when it's handed to them. Even by black witnesses, even by black commentators, even by a black attorney general. They don't give a shit. They're agenda driven, okay? Now, here is the moment the protest began, and a look at how the protesters hounded the parishioners.
Renee Good! Renee Good! Renee Good! Hands up! Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you?
This is the pastor
You drink
telling
your
him to
coffee,
get out.
you
and
got
a
your
leftist.
jewelry, you have your nice clothes.
This is a
But what do
leftist
you do?
harassing the
What do you
parishioners.
do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities?
I'm not going to comment.
Parishioners being totally respectful. The leftists marching up and down the aisle. Fists raised. In that montage we just played, you can hear the pastor who was leading the service say, shame on you, and point to the protesters to exit. That's it. You don't leave after that. It's called trespass. It's called criminal trespass. Parishioners engaged the protesters, begging them to leave, but they did not. By the way, they were so respectful that that asshole, that complete asshole, we'll get to him, his last name is Kelly, who seemed to lead the whole thing, was in the face of these parishioners. Why aren't you standing with your Somali neighbors like they're all a bunch of racists because they don't want to support the fraudsters who have invaded Minneapolis? And the parishioners, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I really think I would have to go jihad on these people. But these parishioners are so kind and sweet. They really are Minneapolis nice. They're like, I have no comment. Please don't. Please leave. You watch this online and it's almost aggravating because you want these complete cretins. What you really want is for them to be punched in their face. That's really what I want. I want Jesse Kelly in that church. That's what I want. But instead they got Minneapolis, Minnesota nice. And we got begging for these people to leave, which is totally appropriate too, but they did not. They stayed for another 45 minutes. According to Alpha News, which we love, they did not leave until actually the police showed up. Oh, great. We finally did have police show up. On the live feed, because BLM was live feeding this, one protester could be heard saying, this isn't God's house. This is the house of the devil. Well, you made it. You made it the house of the devil. You brought the devil inside. I could see it. Didn't I say satanic right at the top? That's how it felt. At one point, the church began blasting music. You heard it at the end of that clip there to try to drown out the protesters, much in the way we now hear the good guys chant USA, USA, when we hear people try to drown out Trump or one of his nominees at their confirmation hearings. Well, that was actually a good move. They tried to blast Christian music to try to drown out the absurd calls of these so-called protesters, these terrorists. And just seconds into the protest, I'm using that word very facetiously. This was not a protest. This is terror. This is terrorism. You can see one small child upset in a pew and being comforted by his dad. This is so sad. Imagine your little boy not knowing what to make of this, not knowing where it was going. Every child in America, unfortunately, knows that strangers sometimes come in to places where children are to shoot them. And now they see these bullies show up in a Baptist mass and threaten the people sitting there, try to shame and scream in the faces of them. A woman sitting next to the boy, likely his mom, can be seen putting her hand on his shoulder to comfort him. She looks bewildered. She's probably unsure whether these protesters are just there to yell or to do something more sinister. We just had a shooting inside of a church a couple of months ago. We've had multiple shootings inside of synagogues. So these people have to worry about whether they are just going to be allowed to worship or whether they're going to get hurt and their children are going to get hurt. You can't be sure, can you? Sadly, in this day and age. Don Lemon, who was totally enjoying his moment in the spotlight, also catching footage of an upset parishioner trying to get the protesters to leave. But in true Don Lemon fashion, he justified the protesters' actions.
Sure, people here don't like it, but protests are not comfortable. And there are people here who are, I'm looking at a young man who's in the corner. He's frightened, he's scared, he's crying. People are leaving church. So, yeah. Guys standing up now saying, get out of our church. He's screaming. They're trying to calm him down.
God bless him. What you can see is a parishioner yelling at the rioters, at the terrorists, get out, get out. He's screaming at them, get out. And you've got Don Lemon's running commentary that protests are not comfortable. Guess what, Don? You're too stupid to understand the law, but this one also happens to be illegal. You know how it's illegal to harass people as you show up at the abortion clinic? You're not allowed to do that. The law makes it clear you cannot show up right outside of the abortion clinic and harass people, or any medical clinic. Well, guess what? That same law also applies to places of worship. You're not allowed to do it. There are some very limited, but this is one of them, limits on your First Amendment rights. The Supreme Court has made clear over and over and over and over and over that you can have restrictions on speech that govern time, place, and manner. And that's what this so-called FACE Act is. It's a restriction on time, place, and manner for protests around things like abortion clinics and around things like churches. And you certainly do not have the right to go into a place of worship and harass worshiping parishioners, something you, Don Lemon, and all of your disgusting BLM terrorists are about to learn the hard way. During the protests, Lemon talked to the pastor who was leading the service and had the gall to ask him, don't you think Jesus would understand?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Oh my God, he's not.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I need to take a deep breath. This is so infuriating. Some people are too stupid to be allowed into the news. And that's saying something. Some people are too dumb to be allowed to do the news. He's too dumb. He's too dumb. He's too ideological. He's too sympathetic to the terrorists there. and doesn't know shit about the law or the U.S. Constitution. Has no fucking clue what he is saying to that pastor there. That they have a First Amendment right to be there. You're going to learn the hard way, sir, how wrong you are. Lemon was also outside the church when some of the parishioners left and admitted it must have been traumatic for them. But he says, hey, that's what protesting's all about. Making children scared. Such a sweet guy, Don. Watch.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful. It's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please. Really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so
it's about traumatizing people. Literally, you heard it there. It's traumatic for people, but that's what protesting is all about. It's about traumatizing them. Men, women, children, Christians. It's fine. Let's get the Christians. I'm telling you, this is a growing attitude in this country, and it has to stop. The whole protest was organized by Nekima Levy Armstrong. She's a longtime BLM activist. She's a lawyer and an idiot and a former law professor at the University of St. Thomas in Minneapolis. Okay, never heard of it. She says she's a reverend. Sure. Where? Where do they allow this kind of behavior? Reverend. Per Alpha News, Armstrong said after the protest, quote, I feel that we did what needed to be done. And I know that this church will never be the same after today. You're right. I hope you get to say that to all of your fellow inmates. I really do. I hope you get to, I hope you're the one who they decide to room with the tranny roommate. I do. I really hope that when you actually go to pay for your crimes, you get introduced to your side's demands that, you know, we be open and welcoming to everybody. And you get the 6'5" huge fucking tranny posing as a woman as your roommate. You know, the one, this just hit the news. I think it was out of California, where the guy who continued to sexually assault women and force them to perform fellatio on him over and over got roomed next to a female or with a female in his cell. Why? Because of leftists like you, madam, who think that there's no such thing as a woman and that we can erase these lines. How's that going to go? I'm sorry. Like, I'm so angry right now. I just feel like, what? Something better be done. Pam Bondi's saying it will. Trump is saying it will. We'll see. Attorney General Pam Bondi writing on X, quote, the Justice Department is investigating at my direction. Any violation of federal law will be prosecuted. Harmeet Dillon, the assistant AG for the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, writing on X, a house of worship is not a public forum for your protest. It's a space protected from exactly such acts by federal criminal and civil laws. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt weighing in, writing, quote, President Trump will not tolerate the intimidation and harassment of Christians in their sacred places of worship. All of which better be true. I have every reason to believe them. I think they're as angry as I am, and I look forward to seeing what they do with those feelings. We check the X feeds again of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Minnesota Mayor Jacob Frey, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. So far, zero reaction to this protest. She's probably in the middle of her 5 times a day prayer. She's probably too busy yelling Allahu Akbar and patting her husband's bank account. She can't spare a minute for the Christians who are suffering as a result of the Somali, her people, fraud at the center of all of this. I'm sure at some point today they're going to give their thoughts and prayers, but whenever it comes, it's too late. It won't be sincere because it doesn't take hours to condemn protests. Again, terrorism inside a church that left children frightened. And if you think all the protesters, again, I'm using that term very loosely, were just chanting generic woke mantras, you're wrong. One, I mentioned a moment ago, is named William Kelly. According to Right Angle News Network, he's a paid agitator who travels from state to state harassing ICE agents. Why is he out on the street is the real question, because you see, he was arrested on Friday for reportedly impeding ICE, but was out thanks to the revolving door that is the criminal justice system in places like Minneapolis, in time for Sunday's, quote, protest. And we mean terrorism. He got up in the faces of the worshipers, screaming, ranting and raving about, quote, white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives. For the listening audience, he's white. Watch.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity?
In the face
You're
of
sinners.
2 young men here.
You're pretending to be Christians, but we know you live an easy life, don't you? Living real comfortable while children are dragged into
Now
concentration camps. You're all living real comfortable,
Screaming at kids
aren't
in a
you?
van.
Shame on you. Do something. Stand
A
with
girl
the
in an American
Somalis.
flag sweater
Stand with the
slams the door.
Latinos.
Get away
Quit
from her.
ignoring this injustice.
Okay. The Daily Wire's Megan Basham reports this guy's been previously linked to a group disrupting church services in Washington, D.C., including one incident where the protesters caused a church parishioner to go to the hospital with a shattered eardrum after the person screamed into a bullhorn in their face. On TikTok, Kelly has called ICE agents Nazis. He has said the U.S. is an evil empire and that a civil war has already begun. And on one of his Sunday protest videos, he wrote, quote, "No rest for demons." In that, Mr. Kelly, you and I are in perfect agreement. Who the demons are, we're going to have to fight out. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to somebody from Birch Gold Group? You know you've been thinking about it. They use an educated approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower right now and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you are a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 and claim your eligibility today. Again, text MK to 989898 now. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.